Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Now, I've got a bit of a double bill for you today. I'm going to be showing you a couple of images, and the first one is this. Now, credit to this channel here for spotting this. This was spotted by Quick Solutions Data and uploaded yesterday, I think. This channel seems to be genuine, so I thought I'd check it out. The way to tell whether a channel is genuine or not is to see if they provide links in the description. And this one does, so this is genuine. Okay, so credit to Quick Solutions Data for this find. It's not one of mine. Okay, I've got many on my channel and many on my website from Mars, and I'm going to show you one or two of those a bit later. But let's have a look at this up close. Now, these images are really old and they're not very good quality. These were taken about 15 years ago. Okay, this set of images from the Spirit Rover, from Sol 536, okay? Now, it landed all the way back about 17 years ago, and then finally died out in 2010. So these are old images, so they're not very good quality. People complain about the Rover images now, but they're way better than these were. And this is a long time ago. So let's have a look at the image first, and then I'll show you some more information on it. Now, I've got the whole set of images here. I'm just going to flick through them for you, and I'll talk you through them. Now, some of these are left and some of these are right. This is the rover on the ground here. Really poor quality images, as you can see when you zoom in. Now, I've cleaned these up. I've had to remove a lot of the distortion from these images because they're badly downsized. Now, why they were downsized when they were already very small images, I don't know. But there we are. There's another one there. And here, just rocks on the ground. And then we have this. Now, this is a clip. Let me show you the actual raw image here. As you can see, it's pretty grungy. Now, this has been cleaned up already, so it's a lot worse. But in fact, there are two UFOs in this image. There's one here, and there's one just up here. It's on the edge of the picture, unfortunately. Now, this is a clip of the image. It's had a colour filter added, just to warm it up a bit. And you can see this thing has got a sort of oval-shaped body to it with two parts sticking out like wings or something. And there's distortion around the image, right? Here's another one. There's another one. Now, this is a negative that's been flipped round, okay? That's also the same image. Colour filtered. You can see there's distortion behind it here. Now, this looks to be a moving object, perhaps, okay, because you can see in this one, this area here, this looks like it's spinning slightly and moving in this direction, okay, so it's got motion blur here, and there's a lot of distortion around it, which is what you usually get when you have a bright or solid object in the sky. Okay, you normally get JPEG distortion around it because all objects reflect light, even if they're quite dark objects, they still reflect light, and the light reacts with the surface of the object and causes this kind of halo effect. Okay, this is normal, and especially when you have low quality JPEG images like this. Okay, there it is. You can see there's like a halo around it, and there's distortion around it as well. We've got this blurred part here. It says to me, this bit here, that this may well be moving, okay? Now let's look at it around the other way. And we can see that smudge behind it. Just here, there's a smudge here, right? Now this is quite similar to some I've shown before, and it does look like a flying saucer when you flip it round, but is it? See, what I'm struggling with here is this part here, the possible wings. I'm not saying they are wings, I'm saying they're possible wings here, are absolutely dead straight, ruler straight. You can see this line going across here. That is absolutely straight, right? Now, even if an aircraft had straight wings, you wouldn't see it as a completely straight line necessarily, unless you were absolutely behind. And even then, aircraft wings are not that straight. They're sort of elliptical, and they usually have a shape to them as well. They're usually slightly curved or something, you know. They're never absolutely straight. So that says to me that this may be some kind of reflection or interference. I don't know. But normally when we see interference, as in, say, a lens flare or cosmic rays hitting the sensor, you would see a bright light object, like a white light, with a look at a star-like appearance, and with striations coming off of it, like you would see in a star in the sky. Okay, so this says to me that this is probably not a lens flare or a cosmic ray or anything like that. Okay, and if it was a data dropout, now you do get data dropouts in some of these images occasionally, but they're usually rectangular parts of the image which are completely missing. In other words, if there's parts of the data missing, normally you get a block of information missing, either rectangular or square or something like that. I don't think I've seen any that are not like that. So this does seem to be some kind of UFO. Now, it's odd because it's so straight. Like I said, this central wing section, if that's what it is here, is absolutely ruler straight. Okay, let's look at it up the right way. Let's put it in here actually. So there are lots of these, and I have shown many of these on my channel over the years. This is quite similar to some of the others I've shown. Okay, now this is a further back clip, so we can see it in context here. So this is about, I would say, about 20 feet off the ground, possibly less, depending on how far away it is. And you can see how straight that line is when you go in close. Absolutely straight, but you can see the distortion around it. Let's flip it to negative, like I did before. Okay. And then when you flip it round the other way, obviously it looks more like a flying saucer. But could this be a reflection? No. Reflections are not black. Okay? So if this was a cosmic ray, this would not be black. This would be bright white. Okay? So that's not what it is. It would look more like this if it was a reflection, or a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. So who knows? And it probably didn't appear for very long, because this image here is the left image with the UFO in here, and the right image, it's not there, but there is something up here, so it may have shot off. Now, does that mean it was moving extremely quickly? If it was moving that fast, I would expect to see a lot more motion blur in this image, and there isn't enough for that to happen. So who knows? But there does seem to have been perhaps two objects. If we look at the raw image again, this one has been brightened up. Actually, this is a brighter version. As you can see, it's brighter here. There's the one on the right, and there's one up here on the left, just here off the edge of the screen, which looks very similar, the bottom part of it, to this. Okay, very similar. So if this image was taken before, if the left image was taken before the right image, then obviously this thing only appeared for a fraction of a second. But if these were taken in the opposite order, then we don't know. If this was taken after, if the one with the UFO in it was taken after the one without it, then it could have been just hanging around or moving quite slowly. But it does have what seems to be motion blur. Okay, so there's less distortion in this. You can see there's that kind of smudge there, just below it here on the left, which says to me it looks like it's moving. But I could be wrong, who knows? So leave a comment below, let me know what you think. Let me quickly show you, whilst we're here, some similar ones here. Now these were not taken quite so far back. These were taken about 5 or 6 years ago. And you can see this is a negative of these. These actually appeared as bright white objects, okay, like this. This one's saucer shaped, this one is more complex, right? You can see the similarities here, okay? That's how they appeared, and these are negatives, okay? So we've got a similar shape, but this one even seems to have a little spike on the top of it here. So it's like an old school flying saucer shape, and there's even something underneath there. You can just about make out there's something sticking out underneath it. As with this one, it's got a part underneath as well. So these aren't the same, but they're similar. But these were actually spotted up this way. They weren't. These haven't been flipped around or anything. They weren't up the other way. That's how these were. So could it be one of these? It does look very similar. It's not as chunky. It's kind of slimmer. This possible wing here is very thin and very, very straight indeed. In fact, if I move it to the edge of the page, if it'll let me, let's do it this way. You can see how straight that is, right? And it has some kind of little dome on top. You can actually make out here that there's something on top of it. If you look here, there's something there like that, right? It's got a detail there we're picking out. So it's not completely domed. It's got the classic sort of flying saucer kind of thing there. There's something sticking out the bottom. I mean, some of this is image distortion, so you've got to be careful. There's something sticking down there like that. And obviously we have these straight possible wings all part of the craft here. Interesting how straight these are here. I can't even draw that straight. I mean, it's ridiculous. Well, I did there. There we are. So that's what it is. It's a classic flying saucer kind of shape with a little kind of dome on top. And it may have been kind of spinning round as it flew. You can see that smudge there. So it seems to have been travelling from the right to the left and turning, perhaps. Or it may have just been upright like this. But it seems to have been moving from right to left because we have a smudge here and there's more distortion on the right side, which says to me it's moving from right to left. Okay? So it's moving towards this top left corner here, towards that other UFO in the image, or that other object. Okay? So there was that. So that's part one. Okay? So that's part one of the video. So part two coming up in a second. And what we have here is a much more recent image. In fact, this is one of the very latest images from the high-rise camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. This is a great image, actually. Now, the official name for this is Seasonal Monitoring of Site with Odd Topography. Okay. Now, I've added vegetation and a question mark in front of that. This is the official title of it, but I've added vegetation. Okay. There isn't much info on this, and this is the actual page it came from. And this was literally only put up a few days ago. So this is one of the latest. And there's nothing about it here. All it says is that title there, Seasonal Monitoring with Odd Topography and everything. But that's it. You don't get anything. You get the scale, you get the usual information here. But you do get a little map that you can zoom into here. This is right in this crater here. Now, I don't know what crater this is. There's no name. If this was an actual well-known crater, then it would have been in the title, I'd imagine. They would have put that in the information, but they haven't. So you can zoom in and find out. This will actually give you coordinates here. So you could probably line this up with Google Earth and go to Mars, Google Mars, and then line this up by copying these coordinates here. But what we have here is a lot of ice and strange stuff on the ground. Now, when I say strange stuff, I mean vegetation, okay? Now, this image is merged infrared and blue, okay? Now, most of the image is black and white, but this central section here is the color data that's been added on top of the black and white image, okay? So a lot of the image is just in black and white, but the central strip here is color. And we have these big areas of green sort of blobs here. Now, this is a sort of crater or hole in the ground here, it seems, or a shallow kind of depression, but with a deeper part here, which is very, very dark. Now, I've already brightened this image up because it's very dark, and you don't see this. You do see the green in the original, and you can see it slightly better in this one because I've brightened it up a bit. It says it's 70% brightness, 20% contrast. Now, that sounds a lot, but it's not that much. Now, what I've also got here is a much, much brighter crop of that image. Now, this is probably what it would look like if you were a bit closer and not so far up as the MRO camera is, okay? I've really brightened it up, and you can see these colours here. This is the colour strip in the middle, black and white either side. And look at these big, huge areas of greenery. These big blobs, which are approximately 50 to 100 metres each. That one's 50. That one's more than 50. Yeah, some of these are like whole strips of it here. And then, when you look in this dark area here, it goes right into here. And there's all these smaller blobs, or patches of greenery, that go in to this really dark, gloomy area here, which seems to be like some kind of cavern or hole in the ground or something. If you look at the topography, we've got the edges of this kind of depression coming round in a sort of semicircle here. You can see it's really, really dark here, and that seems to be going into the ground. So what we may have here is a thermal vent, okay, which means there may be molten liquid water in here. A lot of this seems to be ice, and a lot of this black stuff isn't really black because this is a black and white image. And in the colour part of the image, you can see that it's actually green, dark green, a lot of it. Some of it's kind of an olivey kind of green, some of it's very dark green like we've got here, okay? There's a blob here, there's smudges all over here. So that all goes right into this dark area. So in reality, if all this was in actual colour, all this stuff would be green, or most of it would be green and not black, because we have colour data. Now, you also have to read between the lines when it comes to NASA images, and they said here, seasonal monitoring. Now, what that means is that they often take images of the same area at different times of the year as the MRO spins round the surface of Mars, okay? So it would come back year on year at different times of year and go over the same areas over and over again, taking multiple images of the same areas to see the difference at different times of the year. And I'm guessing that this is probably, or possibly, in the spring or summer, as the permafrost and ice on the ground is melting, and what we're getting is seasonal vegetation. I've shown it before. When it comes to images like this, most of the time, when there's something really interesting, NASA do not give you an explanation. If it's something really mundane, it's just some cracks in the ground, or say a volcano, which isn't mundane, but you know, if it's something more mundane, they would give you a long explanation about the process, sedimentary rock and the different kind of tectonic movements on the ground, that kind of thing. They would give you some geological information. There's nothing with this, apart from the fact it says it's seasonal monitoring. That says to me that this is vegetation, and they're coming back here time and time again to see if this colour this green moss or plant life, whatever it is, it looks like plant material on the ground. They will come back again and again to see if this colour has changed at different times of the year. Now, I've also shown similar stuff to this before on my website here. Now, check my website out. It's called ArtAlien.tv. There'll be a link in the description. This is the Mars Plants and Water page. You can also check out the other pages like the UFO page that I showed you earlier, okay? And then we have this area. Now, this is similar to the area we're looking at today. We have these patches. Now, of course, a lot of these images are taken in black and white, so we don't know what we're looking at. And I'm sure that's why a lot of them are black and white, so that we don't get to see all this greenery. And this does appear, and in this video, it does show this at different times of the year. And this stuff increases in the summer, the spring and summer, and dies off in the autumn, and almost disappears in the winter. Okay, these patches of greenery, which I think is a type of moss. Now, if you look really closely on this image, right, let's go back to this. Now, if you look really closely at some of this larger one here, and this one, and you can see actual veins or possible runners coming out from this material here, this green foliage, going into the ice. And you can see through the ice and see these under the ice. There's more here. Okay? You've got runners coming out, roots. So what this material may be doing, this plant material, which is what it looks like, this moss or whatever type of growth it is, it's sending runners down below the permafrost to get molten water, perhaps, from below the permafrost. We can actually see through the ice on the ground here. We can see these roots. And if this is a thermal vent, which it may be, just here, then this may be melting the permafrost enough for this plant material to send runners down in through the ice 6, 10, 12 feet below the ground, whatever depth that is, to drink and extract liquid water. Come check out the links below. Check out this close-up of this vegetation. Let me know what you think about it. Check out these kind of roots going below the ice here. You can see through it. All right. This seems to go right into the ground and maybe an example of a thermal vent and plant growth on the ground taking advantage of the warmth coming from it. Okay. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon.